Hey guys, it's me, Carrie. If you are familiar with this channel and have been a subscriber for a long period of time, forgive me because some of what I'm about to say may be repetitive. If you are a new subscriber, this will be a complete departure from what you're used to. And if by chance you somehow stumbled across this video because the title intrigued you, welcome to my channel. My name is Carrie. I am 47 years old. I suffer from generalized anxiety disorder and pervasive depressive disorder. I was diagnosed with depression when I was 18, although I saw my first therapist when I was 7. I surprisingly was not diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder until 4 years ago when I started seeing my current therapist, Hillary, who is not only the best therapist I've had out of at least a dozen in my lifetime, but one of the best people I know in general. She's just really terrific, and I'm so grateful to have her in my life. But yeah, I'm going to be really vulnerable in this video. And it's probably unwise because generally when you open your heart and your soul and your mind and your spirit, especially to strangers, at least lately, it seems that a lot of people see that as an opening to attack. They see that you're vulnerable and they think, oh, goody, goody, now I can hurt someone. Even if it's a complete stranger, they somehow get some morbid satisfaction out of that. Something, one of many things I will never understand. But I feel compelled to film this video right now for you guys, straight out of the shower, in my robe, in my little penguin PJs with my hair sopping wet, because I'm really, really, really struggling. Not just today, but in general. I've struggled always since the day I was born, but I'm struggling more clearly in the age of COVID. I have had physical manifestations of the struggle. I have had basically scabs form all over my scalp and a crust, which, sorry if that's gross, but it's like my scalp is getting crusty, and then I scratch it and there's scabs, and sometimes they bleed and it can be painful and itchy and it's miserable. And I've been using prescription shampoo since pretty much March or April, on and off, alternating with other shampoos, and it's not done jack shit to help. Um, I clearly have a nice big fat zit on my chin. That's lovely. I thought I'd point that out in case you didn't notice, because I'm being super vulnerable. I have a scar right here from Mohs surgery that I had this January to remove cancer from my face, because 2020 started out even with a bang for me, although I was diagnosed with the malignancy back in November or December of last year, but the actual surgery was this year. So I pretty much hate what I'm looking at right now, like my physical body and being and the skin I'm in. Hate. Like, I feel sick right now. All I can see is that my teeth are yellow, which is natural. They always have been. I've never been a smoker. I'm just lucky to be blessed with yellow teeth. I have a chip in my tooth right there that I'm sure you guys can see, and if you couldn't before, you can now. I am going to point out all my flaws because that is all I see when I look at me. But that's just the physical stuff. It goes way deeper than that. My brain is completely twisted and fucked up. I sincerely believe that the only reason I am alive is due to the fact that I am on medication for both my depression. I take Prestique, luckily, because it is free for people with financial need due to a great program that Pfizer Pharmaceuticals runs called Pathways to Care. You can check that out if you or someone you love suffers from a mental illness or even a physical illness. Although mental illness, I'm really sick of people acting like mental illness is not a physical illness, because guess what? Your brain is part of your body. It's an organ, just like your heart and your liver and your kidneys. So if you have heart disease, that's a physical illness. And if you have mental illness, and you have a disorder of your brain, I feel like that's a physical illness too. That's just a me thing. I really am so fucking sick and tired of people dismissing mental illness as somehow being less than other types of illnesses. They're not. To the best of my knowledge, 1 in 4 people suffers from a mental illness. That used to be 1 in 5, but from the latest polls that I've read, it's 1 in 4. So chances are, if you are in a room with 3 other people and it's not you who suffers, one of those other 3 probably does. So that's just a little food for thought. But I don't like to use the word depression. And I had never heard the term pervasive depressive disorder again until my current therapist, Hillary, said it to me. And I was like, wow, that's an actual technical diagnosis. That's a real name. Because people hear depression and they think, oh, I've been depressed. I mean, when my cat died, I was really sad. So, I know what it's like to be depressed. No, depression, the mental illness, pervasive depressive disorder, is not feeling sad. It is feeling sad. It is feeling angry. It is feeling nothing. It is feeling everything. It is not having any control or very little control over what you do and do not feel. It is stubbing your toe or breaking your arm and feeling like those are equivalent injuries in your mind. They are just as big. Nothing happens, at least in my case, nothing happens on a level 1. If I stub my toe, that's an 11, just like breaking my arm would be an 11. I don't have the right brain chemistry to process that not everything is a huge deal, because to me, everything feels like it is a huge deal. This zit on my face is making me so angry right now that I want to put my fist through this glass window behind me. I know rationally that's ridiculous. It's a zit. It'll go away. But it doesn't change how it feels to me. That's a small taste of what my mental illness feels like. And living in the world of COVID, it's just, I think a lot of people who don't suffer from mental illness or are currently or were previously undiagnosed, they're just starting to get a little tiny taste of what it feels like to live with constant fear and anxiety and dread and tension and, oh my God, what if I get this thing? What if I die? Before COVID, I would worry about that every day. There would be no reason to. But in the back of my mind, every time I cross the street, it's like, I wonder if today will be the day I get hit by a car and killed. I worry all the time. My brain never stops. And now is no exception. I got hacked. My Amazon account got hacked recently, and I'm still fighting with Amazon to get the almost $100 refunded to me that the assholes stole. They canceled the transaction immediately that day. They emailed me and said, we know this is not your transaction and we've canceled the transaction. However, 12 days later, they still haven't refunded my money. This makes no sense to me. This is something that I had a knockdown, drag out, not physically, but emotionally, battle, the equivalent of World War III, with my husband over. Now, my husband is on my team, obviously. My husband wants me to get my money back too. But having to make the call to Amazon, the third one I've made regarding this issue, having to explain the situation again, getting the same rote response again, getting the same bullshit, in 1 to 2 business days, you should get a contact back from the escalation team that I've gotten 2 subsequent times before. It's enraging, absolutely enraging. To other people, it might be, God, this is really inconvenient. This sucks. But besides the fact that this is a lot of money to my husband and I, a lot, it might mean nothing to someone else. It's a lot to us, especially at the holiday season when we'd like to be able to do something for the people that we love, most of whom are scattered far and wide. Although even if they weren't, with fucking COVID, it's not like we could see them anyway. But it wasn't just an 11 with Amazon. It became an 11 with my husband, who's on my team. But I don't take criticism well, and I perceive everything as criticism, and it maddens him to no end. He suffers from bipolar disorder, by the way. So put our 2, well, technically 3 if you count both of mine, and he may suffer from more than one. That's debatable. Mental illnesses together, and it's like a car crash. It's just an explosive, out of control emotions, and he's much better at maintaining some semblance of calm than I am until he gets pushed to a certain point, and then we both have like volcanic tempers and we both go for the throat, and we're just really horribly cruel to each other. Sorry, I'm trying to avoid shadows and glare in my glasses, but what the fuck. But But anyway, yeah, so that's been on my mind for hours and I can't stop thinking about it. And it's it's not just Amazon sucks and this is a shitty thing that happened. It's I'm not safe anywhere on the internet. I can't trust anyone. I have to change my passwords for everything. I have to avoid any unusual or different behaviors online. People in life can't be trusted. I can't go out in public and be around people and be vulnerable with people because they're just going to fucking stab me in the back and hurt me and betray me. And well, really, it's not just strangers, it's the people I know too, because technically, even though they may be wonderful people, I'm a piece of shit. So why would I deserve to be treated like anything more than a piece of shit? So why trust anybody? Why leave the house? Why even get out of bed? That's mental illness in the age of COVID, at least for me. I have to leave the house tomorrow to do a thing. I'm going to see my Mohs doctor and try to find out if the scar can be minimized at all and the discomfort in the scar can be minimized. And you guys may not even see it. I've been told by countless people who have seen me in person prior to COVID or photos or whatever. I don't even see it. I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't see a thing. It's all I see, aside from the zit and the yellow teeth and the chipped tooth. I I don't know. I just can't not see it. But I also feel it. And that's the really annoying thing. It's now been 11 months since the surgery. And every time I take a sip out of a mug or a glass, anything that's not revolving around a straw, I feel it a lot. And it feels stiff and funky. And I'm just concerned. And I just want the doctor to say that's normal or here's what we can do to help. I'd also love for him to figure out what the fuck's going on with my scalp, but my husband and my GP, who prescribed the shampoo, seem to think that it's all anxiety based. And I'm like, but I've always had anxiety. But I guess because it's just escalated to so much more of a severe point now, maybe it's manifesting in that new fun symptom. And maybe that's not something that'll go away and I'll just have to live with it. And whatever, story of my life, right? I know there are people who have it worse than me. I mean, I'm not stupid and I'm not naive. I That's one thing I will always give myself credit for in a positive way is that I know I'm an intelligent person. I've been an intelligent person all my life. I mean, academically, they almost skipped me a grade in school. I've always, when I was in school, I always did work a grade level ahead of my own. I'm not a stupid person, at least when it comes to book smarts. Not that I've ever done anything with that, but that's beside the point. So obviously, I realize there are people in life who have things way worse than I do that I can be aware of both mentally and, like my rational mind and my emotional mind both comprehends that. Doesn't change that when anything goes wrong in my life, it feels like the end of the fucking world. This Amazon thing, somebody slighting me, even an imagined slight, they don't respond to a text fast enough. They don't call me back on the rare occasions that I call people. They don't like my comments on Facebook, even though they've liked other people's comments. I mean, the stupidest shit. Really, really stupid shit that I shouldn't be worrying about. I worry about. And it's just as big as major shit like a death in the family, which I've suffered many in the past 8 years. Many, many, many. I've lost my brother. I've lost a beloved pet. I've lost one, two, three uncles and an aunt. No, it's three uncles and an aunt. I've been through some shit. I'm not going to go through the whole story of my life, but suffice it to say, I've been through some shit. Who hasn't, right? But this past decade, it's been pretty much a crap sandwich with a side of crap. And I am not good at coping, even in the best of times. So to have everything else that's going on in my life or not going on in my life compounded by COVID is a real kick in the head. I'm not handling it well. I handle it better sometimes than others. Right now, today, I'm not handling it well at all. I also think I forgot to take my meds, which is a bad thing for me. I mean, it shouldn't be tremendously impactful because it's only a day, but I typically take my clonazepam, which is my generic, uh, excuse me, clonazepam, which is the generic of Klonopin, my anti-anxiety med. I started to say that earlier, and I don't think I ever got across fully that I took that. I was focused on the Prestige, but I take my clonazepam 3 times a day, which is more than most people. Like, legitimately, they have to, like, sign off every single time I get a refill. The doctor has to sign off on it because he gives me a 90-day supply because I take it 3 times a day, even though it's a 90 pill supply, I should say. But for me, that's 30 days worth of meds because I take 3 a day. And that's a big deal, I guess. Most people typically take 1 or 2. I'm supposed to take one on my schedule. I take one whenever I get up, and that varies. I take one at 3 when I watch Judge Millian on the People's Court. Shout out Marilyn Millian. Love that show. And then I take one before bed. That's if I remember. Most days I'm lucky if I remember morning and night. The 3 o'clock one, even though I have it set on my phone on a timer, my ass is too lazy, and it's like, fuck, it's time for the People's Court. I don't need to worry about my meds, so I tend to not take my middle of the day pill. And the Prestige I just take once a day in the morning. It's always funny to me that an antidepressant is a stimulant. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Like, if you're already depressed, why would you take a depressant? You would take a stimulant to counteract the depression. But it's always funny to me. So it's like, so I'm kind of taking uppers for my depression, and then the clonazepam is supposed to, like, slow me down and stabilize me for the anxiety. So it's like, how do they not cancel each other out? But they don't, or at least theoretically they don't. The doctor obviously knows I'm taking them both. I don't have the good fortune of seeing a psychiatrist because that requires moolah or rate insurance, neither of which I have. So I'm really fortunate that my general practitioner prescribes me these meds because he is awesome, and he's known me since I was 12 and knows me and knows my history and knows my family history about as close as you can get to, like, a Doc Baker from Little House on the Prairie as you can get, like the person that comes and does house calls. He doesn't do that, but damn near. So he's a wonderful doctor, and I'm really grateful to have him in my life as well. But if not for him, I don't know, I wouldn't have meds either, I guess. But I am alive because of my meds and because of my therapist, and obviously because of my husband and my mother. I live with the 2 of them. We're in my childhood home. It's not where I intended to be at 47. We haven't always been. We did have our own place for 8 years in Florida, my husband and I, but we're back here due to a million circumstances, none of which we could control. And the intention was for it to be temporary, and it's been 7 years. So yeah, there's that. We're very grateful to have a roof over our heads, don't get me wrong, but it's not ideal all the time. There's certainly some headbutting that goes on between my mom and my husband and I, and 3 cats, but we do the best we can. But yeah, there's just, if not for a vow I made to my husband and my mother that I would not harm myself, and the fact that I'm on medication and in therapy, I would be dead. There is no question in my mind. I'm a fucking wuss, and I'm afraid of everything. I'm afraid of shots. I was supposed to get a flu shot yesterday. My husband and I made appointments with CVS and gave them our insurance information over the internet, and they made the appointment for us. And then when we got there, they're like, so you're paying out of pocket for this, right? And we're like, what the fuck? No. Like, oh, well, we don't take your insurance. I'm like, that's funny because you seemed to take it yesterday when we entered it online and you made us this appointment. So we ended up going there and to another pharmacy and being told by both that we're not covered for flu shots, even though every pharmacy in the world says flu shots free. Most insurance accepted. Apparently we're not most insurance. So the point being that I was scared shitless to get that shot because I hate needles. So I mean, the thought of me harming myself is kind of humorous in a way because I'm such a fucking wuss. I mean, there are ways to do it that don't require pain, I would imagine, but I've made a promise to my mom and my husband, so I'm stuck because when I make a promise, my word is my bond, and I am screwed. So that is why I'm still here. But I am struggling hardcore. And I imagine that probably a lot of you are too. And that's why I'm shooting this. That's why I'm making myself so vulnerable right now. And that takes some balls. And I'm going to give myself credit for that because not everybody can do that or would do that. Maybe, debatably, not everybody should do that, including me. Because I know, again, that there are keyboard warriors out there who just look for things like this to shit on because that's who they are. It's not who I am, so that's behavior that I will never understand, and I'm really glad that I will never understand. But on the off chance that you're struggling too, this is just to let you know that you're not alone by any stretch of the imagination. Times is tough, and they're tougher now than probably ever before, certainly in my lifetime. And I'm not even touching politics, but obviously that there are very, very intense feelings regarding that as well, and that just makes the climate even more toxic feeling and frightening. So it's really, really difficult to just do simple things. The fact that I took my shower, and granted it is now 6:13 p.m. and I took my shower just before I started shooting this video about 21 minutes ago. So I took my shower at like 10 to 6 or whatever in the evening, but I did it. And I didn't want to do it, but I certainly didn't want to go to see my doctor tomorrow and have him examine my scalp and be like, well, it's because you're not washing your hair. Because I do wash my hair. Typically, I've always washed my hair every other day, but since this funk, I've been doing it almost every day. And it's not helping. And when I go to every other day, that doesn't help either, so I don't know what the fuck to do about that. But I certainly don't want to make a fool of myself and be like showing up with greasy hair and be like, gee, I wonder why my scalp is itchy and covered in crust. So I made myself take a shower. Yay me. That may not seem like a big deal, but to some of you it might. To some of you, you might get that and go, girl, I feel you. It was all I could do this morning too to, you know, get out of my pajamas, which I didn't do, by the way. I mean, I did to take my shower and then I put them back on and added this robe. But it's still something. I accomplished something. Calling and fighting with Amazon and beating my head against a wall with them, it was still something. I don't feel like I accomplished anything because I still got the same bullshit answer I got twice before. My husband seems to think we made progress. I ended up I had the call on speaker and I just had to hand it off to him because talking on the phone is highly anxiety producing for me, even with friends. There are literally, I can count on less than the fingers of one hand how many people I can call and talk to on the phone without anxiety and fear and stress. And generally I get over that. My husband said it was funny because he heard me talking to someone for the first time. I did like a Skypey kind of thing with my friend Ruby, and it was the first time we'd ever spoken like in actual words. We've only communicated through the internet up until now, and I was so scared. And he said, for like I've noticed when you talk to people like that, for the first 20 minutes or so, you're really, you may, like, I may pick up on your fear because I just know you. But once you get to that like 20-minute mark, you act like, no, like you've known this person forever, and you seem so relaxed and confident and calm. And Ruby and I talked for like probably 2.5 hours, and it was really a great, meaningful conversation, and I feel like it brought us closer together as friends, and that meant a lot to me. So I'm really glad we did that, and now I feel like, okay, next time we do it, it won't be so scary. But when I have to make business calls in particular, like even something as stupid as a doctor's appointment, like the advent of online medical portals and being able to schedule shit online is like such a lifesaver for me because I hate calling to make appointments and dealing with business type stuff. So needless to say, this Amazon thing has been really stressful for myriad reasons. And I don't really see an end in sight. My husband is cautiously optimistic. I'm really skeptical at this point and really, really, really angry. Like, why me? Why? I try so hard to be a good person and put good karma out into the universe and good positive energy and do kind things for people and be a good friend and just put out loving, supportive energy. Because that's the thing. Like, I love other people. Really hardcore love them. I don't trust most people, like as a general rule, but until somebody fucks me over, I love people. And it's weird. It's very, what is the word? There's a great word. Oh, it's the word Winona Ryder uses in one of my favorite movies, Girl Interrupted. She's in her therapy session, and her therapist says, "How are you feeling right now?" And she says, "I don't feel anything. I'm ambivalent." And she goes, "That's my new favorite word. I'm ambivalent." And she's like, "Well, if it's your favorite word, you ought to know what it means, right? And what to you is ambivalent?" She's like, "I feel nothing." And I'm misquoting it. I'm, paraphrasing. And she's like, "Well, if it's your favorite word, you really need to learn the proper definition, because ambivalence indicates very strong feelings in opposition to each other. And ambivalent should be like my middle name right now, because part of me is terrified of the world and hates everybody and distrusts everybody. And then there's another huge part of me that so desperately wants to be loved by every single person on the planet and is literally decimated like a bomb went off if somebody looks at me wrong. And that could be someone I don't even know. But if it's someone I know, oh my God, forget it. Like, my world is over. And that was before COVID. So everything is just so much more intensely felt now. And I want so much to feel nothing, but quite the opposite. I feel everything to the nth degree, and I fucking hate it. And I wish it was a switch I could turn off, but it isn't, unfortunately. And I understand why people turn to substances to try to calm that noise. My brother died of alcoholism at the age of 36. He started drinking at 15. He drank for 21 years, and he died at 36 of pancreatitis. So it's certainly in my family. And my dad died young too. He died at 53 of several different things. We don't know specifically what it was, but he had a bad heart. He was a heavy smoker for many years. He had a collapsed lung and one at 50% capacity. He had a pacemaker. He had a trach tube in his neck by 53. And that was when he died. Most of that stuff actually started around 43, 44. So in my mind, I've already lived more healthy, in air quotes, years than my dad and my brother. So yay for me, I guess. But yeah, there's just a lot of shit in my family. So part of what I suffer with and through and from is genetic, and part of it is environmental, certainly. I've modeled behavior of other people in my family who have struggles with mental illness, some of whom admit it and some of whom do not. And those are their stories to tell, so I'm certainly not naming names. But I am just in a really, really, really bad place. And this is just, I guess, for me, it's sort of like a diary of how I'm feeling right now that I can go ahead and look back at, later or tomorrow or next week or next month, and hopefully be able to say, I'm feeling so much better now. Maybe not. Maybe I won't be feeling better. God forbid I'm feeling worse. And I use that term God forbid very loosely because I'm really unsure about my feelings about God as well. I don't really have religious beliefs per se. I was raised in the Episcopalian church, and I was baptized and confirmed and all that happy horse shit, but I don't go to church on a regular basis. I don't have very clearly defined beliefs. That may put some people off, and I'm sorry if it does, but I don't know who or what I believe in. I generally like to say I'm spiritual, not religious. I believe that there must be some sort of higher power than humans, because we cannot be the top of the food chain. That's just unfathomable to me. It could be aliens. It could be a man, a woman, a horse, Mother Nature, a fucking tree. I don't know what it is, but I believe that there is some sort of higher power. But I don't know what that is. And I guess, again, it's God in air quotes. But that's hard too, I think, not having faith. And that doesn't have to be faith in a specific religion. Like, I have never had deeply held spiritual beliefs. I went to church because I was a kid and that was what I was told to do. I went to Sunday school for the same reason. I was even briefly an altar girl because, my parents thought that that was a cool gig and I did it and whatever. It was never anything that I, made a conscious choice to do. And, church has not been a part of my life for many, many years. And I certainly do not judge people who have strong spiritual beliefs and faith and religion. That is whatever floats your boat. You can believe in whatever you want. As long as you are a kind person and a compassionate person and a good person, however one may define good. I have my own definition, then whatever floats your boat, as long as you're not harming anybody or harming yourself, then you believe in whatever you like. If you want to worship a dandelion, by all means, you go ahead and do it. Peace at ya, flower child. But I don't have that to hang on to either. And I know that's helping a lot of people to cope with what we're all having to cope with. Even without mental illness, this is a hell of a time for people. I have no doubt. I'm certainly empathetic to what other people are dealing with and feeling and going through, even though obviously no one's emotions and situations are exactly the same. I'm not saying you have to be mentally ill to be feeling the stress and the anxiety and the sadness and the fear of living in the COVID age. Certainly you don't, but that doesn't help. It's like just an extra notch to check off on the, I don't know, emotional fucked upness list. And I do have lists like that. And I am always at the top of my most fucked up person that I know. Most fucked up person? I don't know. Actually, that's not entirely true. I used to think that. I used to say to my therapist that, like, okay, I'm sidetracking a little bit, but I tend to do that. And if you're new here, I apologize. And if you're not new here, you can know that about me already. But there was a TV movie made in the 80s with Jennifer Jason Leigh that I absolutely adore, and Jason Miller, called The Best Little Girl in the World. And it was based on a novel about a girl with anorexia, a teenage girl. And there is a scene where she says that she's talking in group therapy with her mom and dad and her sister and her therapist, and they're talking about how her sister was always like the bad seed, and she got pregnant in high school and unmarried and whatever, and she was always the one getting in trouble and breaking curfew and doing everything wrong. And she always felt like she, being Casey, the character Jennifer Jason Leigh played, felt like that she had to be perfect. Like her sister already had the corner on being the fucked up one.